Winston Churchill, his 1955 campaign slogan that he wanted to adopt was, "Vote for me if you want to keep England white."
Our generation don't feel that tie to any particular party. I think also it's a lot more individual now. Our parents and grandparents, there was more of a community. They were more likely to all kind of sway the same way. We're a lot more individualistic in the way that we approach things, and we're kind of thinking about, okay, what's best for me?
Many people want to talk, few people listen, and even fewer people connect. Character's everything, not when the cameras and the lights are on you like now, but when they're off. Are you still the same person?
From the outside looking in, I think there's a section of people that have always felt like, okay, this is like a who's who club, you know? It's not really based on merit. It's based on this family member or someone knows someone. Like, yeah, billionaires should be taxed. That sounds right. That sounds normal. Yeah, let's do that. So I think there's a lot of things there that Labour are willing to commit to, and that's why they're losing a lot of black people. There's a lot of layers to it, but like most things in life. But yeah, I do think that all those elements play a role.
I'm going to talk about a very specific split. The split happening in terms of the black vote. Now, you spoke about it, you touched on it earlier, that traditionally black people voted for Labour. And there is a reason for that. So we're going to try and give you guys a little bit of context behind why that is as well. When a very famous prime minister, some people held in one of the greatest in all time, Winston Churchill, his 1955 campaign slogan that he wanted to adopt was, "Vote for me if you want to keep England white." Now, I must stress that, to my knowledge, that this wasn't adopted as the Conservative Party slogan, but at that current time, this very much appealed to the British electorate, because this coincided the 1950s with, I guess, the reason why myself and Javen find ourselves in the United Kingdom, the Windrush generation coming over. Yeah. Okay. Now, for those that don't know, we must stress this. This is different to illegal immigration. The Windrush generation came over here to rebuild England after the World War. Predominantly the Commonwealth countries, which is why you saw a huge influx back then of the Caribbean communities. And at the same time, they wanted people like myself and Javan, who are probably now maybe first generation or second generation wealth builders, to be in that position that we are now. It is because of them. It is because of the decisions that they made back then. Now, at that time, Labour Party was very favourable to them because we had the trade union movement. And the trade union movement was all about, workers' rights, better pay, safer working conditions, and having legal representation too, having some legalities implemented. And at that time, the Labour Party, you could say, was a safe space for ethnic minorities. It was a place where we could feel heard, listened to, and I guess they welcomed the community with open arms. So at that time, the 1950s, maybe down through to 1990s, if you like, it was about survival. And I don't know if you have ever taken time to read the book of Michael Holding, who's a very famous West Indian cricketer. A fantastic book for anyone, I must stress, to please do buy. And in this book, he essentially talks a lot about the struggles of the Caribbean community. I didn't know until I read this book, which I must say was actually given to me by my white client, by the way. Gave me this book.
What's the book called?
I can't remember the name of the book. I can't remember the title of the book, but the book came about after he made a speech after the George Floyd incident, and around the pandemic time. He made a speech whilst commentating in the cricket, this guy's fault, and then this encouraged him to write a book because it got such a fantastic raving reviews of what he said. But the Tridel, the task force of the Metropolitan Police that you had there, the 1980s. Now, this, he says in this force, this task force was set up, designed to arrest young black men. Not because they have done anything wrong, just because they were black. So if you were congregating, you would be stop, search, arrested. Okay? And as you know, in the 1980s, you had the Brixton riots. Yeah, so, and actually, I don't know if people are aware of this, but when Michael Gove was the education secretary, he actually campaigned to remove a lot of black history out of the national curriculum.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, people don't forget this. So please do take time to read his book. It's a fantastic book. And I must say, when I was reading the book, I felt a little bit emotional. I became a lot more appreciative of what I have now and the struggles that my grandparents, my parents had to get me to where I am now. I mean, we have it difficult now, but nowhere near as hard as what they had it there, to the point where they would be offered a job, and then when you go to the job and they see that you're black, they would retract him. That's sad. And we don't have to deal with that nowadays, right? But what I'm saying, the point I'm making is that from the 1950s to maybe 1990s, it was all about survival. People, you know, so the community voted Labour because that's just what we did. That was the done thing, and that's what they stood for. We are now in a situation we're trying to create wealth. We're no longer just trying to survive. You know, we own assets, property, or so I say, we're just building portfolios, however your portfolio looks. And that means now we need to, people becoming, as you mentioned, more politically fluid. Okay, so I've heard many people say that actually they vote conservatives because they feel that they're more pro-business and that capitalist society. And in actual fact, I don't know if you saw, but let's take Birmingham. There's an independent who won there. A guy called, not independent, a reform candidate, Rajbir Singh. He's Asian. So I think what you're seeing is that black or Asians, they are now across the political parties, and they are no longer voting based on a sense of security, but they're now voting based on actual policies and helping to create maybe that first line of wealth. What do you think is the cause of what you're seeing? Because essentially, Labour has lost the black vote.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's two things. I think the first thing I think is that, like you mentioned, we're not necessarily tied to any particular party. So, and I do look at a lot of American politics, and I think that it's very different. The political landscape there is so different over there. And I lived in America for 5 years. The way that people, if they're a Democrat or if they're part of the GOP, like that's it, like that's them. Over here, I don't think it's as strong, and I think black people don't necessarily, like our generation, don't feel that tie to any particular party. I think also it's a lot more individual now. You know, I think our parents and grandparents, there was more of a community, so they were more likely to all kind of sway the same way. I think we're a lot more individualistic in the way that we approach things, and we're kind of thinking about, okay, what's best for me. So that, I think that's more reliant than identity politics. That's more important than if it's a group of black people, but in this way, I'm going to vote this way. This is my brothers and sisters are doing it. No, I think it's more, how's it going to help me? What's my circumstance? So I think that does play a big role. And I think as well, I watched a very long video, talking about how, you know, black people, there was a study done about how much we consume or how we engage with social media. And we consume a lot of social media, right? And I think a lot of our social media consumption is not really based on politics. If I'm being honest. So I don't think we're very politically educated. So we're not as politically educated. Therefore, we're less likely to engage with it and actually go out and vote anyway. And then on top of that, I don't think that when you look at it, I don't feel as if black people feel represented in any realm within that sphere. So I think that all plays a part as to why, okay, Labour doesn't really have black people in the chokehold like they used to. And I think also, especially in the UK, a lot of black people they're more left-leaning, generally speaking. Not everybody, obviously, we're not a monolith, but I think black people are more left-leaning. So when Corbyn was around, people loved Corbyn, bro. Black people loved Jeremy Corbyn. They still love him now.
Yeah, they still love him now. I think Zach Polanski is 2.0 Corbyn.
Right. Black people like Zach Polanski now. They love him. That's what I'm about to say. So I think, especially young black people, they really like Zach Polanski, bro. The young black people like Polanski. And I think a part of it is, one, like I said earlier, I think he's charismatic. The way that he talks, the way he communicates. Even when he goes on more right, I wouldn't say right wing, but when he goes on those channels, like, he doesn't go on GB News, but I've seen him getting grilled on Sky News and stuff. He doesn't back down. Like, he still, when they're trying to challenge him and do their little gotchas on him, he still communicates, he still gets his point across. And I think young black people, they can resonate with that. They engage with that. There's something about that is like, okay. So I think that's a big reason why. And also policy as well. It's not like policies matter as well. So when Zach Blatter talks about, tax the rich or these policies, I think some people are like, that this makes sense, especially when we're not rich. Like, billionaires should be taxed. That sounds right. That sounds normal. Yeah, let's do that. So I think there's a lot of things there that Labour are willing to commit to and say it. And that's why they're losing a lot of black people. There's a lot of layers to it, but like most things in life. But yeah, I do think that all those elements play a role. And the Windrush era, our parents' era, our grandparents' era, and our era is just like, it's very different now. So different. It's very different now. So those political alliances they're not there anymore. And it's not just based on, because we're black. It's now, I think it's a lot more individual, which means that, we're not moving as a team. It's just, you do what you're doing, I'll do what I'm doing. All right, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. Do you think that some of the perceived treatment of black figures within the Labour Party has something to do with it? Diane Abbott, as an example. Do you think people look at that and they're going, would that ever have happened if the Labour Party were more left-leaning, that she is, to my knowledge, remains still suspended, but at heart is definitely through and through red wall? It did hit the national newspapers that in Croydon, Keir Starmer's niece was nominated to stand in a Labour safe ward, and the newspaper articles basically saying that she was selected, and multiple black women within Croydon were deselected. So, and at the same time, you've seen that the deputy mayor of Hackney, the Green Party member, was a young black man. I think I've seen a few in Wandsworth for the Greens, young, dynamic black individuals that maybe, because maybe you look at it from a standpoint of people want inspiration. They want people that look like them, that relate to them, right? And that they're looking at that connectivity going, oh, you're what we used to think you are, but now they're doing it, so we're going over here.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm just what do you think? What do you think on that perspective?
I agree, and I think there's power in that for the Greens. There's a lot of power in that, because if they can get a stronghold, because the reality is we only represent about 3 or 4% of the UK, right, or England, and a lot of us are clustered in the major cities: Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, obviously London, right, so on and so forth. So there's power in that for the Greens if they can tap into our community. there is power. Obviously, we don't make up a large percentage here, which is another reason why I say the UK and US is so different in that sense as well. Because I wouldn't say that we're politically irrelevant, but the power of our vote is not. It's not the same. Like, we have to be honest, it's not the same. But if you can increase our voter turnout, that can make a difference. That can make a difference. So I do think that the Greens they're seeing that.
They're seeing that. We saw that in Croydon where Rowena Davis, a fantastic Labour candidate, for sure, I think will be an MP or a star of the future, lost out by about 2,000 votes. And it's literally because, the Greens won, I think, 19,000 votes compared to 14,000 previously. And it splintered her vote. But you speak there about the Greens, but black people are not just voting Green. They're voting and they are representing reform. I don't know if you saw, like in Croydon, some of their candidates are black. They, and I think there's also, and I think this is what I think the internet blurs lines, because we are under the assumption, and this is what I say, like, is it the black vote again being splintered? Is clearly not cultural. Maybe it's policy driven, because they're in reform, they're in the Greens, they're representing SNP, it's everywhere.
But so I don't know if this day is available yet, but I doubt it will be. The first one just happened. But how many black people do you think realistically would have voted for reform?
Do you know what? I think more than what we think.
Okay. Why do you think that though?
Because I think of what you said. I think they're looking at it thinking they're tired of the two main parties. I think a lot of people seriously open up that little reform booklet and went,
Also making sense.
I don't think they'll say it publicly. I'm telling you, I think deep down, a couple of people were sprinting to that ballot box and they don't look over their shoulder. What's going on? Just tick left.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, because if some of the voting share, like I say, places like Birmingham, and I even look at places where I'm originally from, like Croydon, I'm going 400-500 votes for reform down here.
Yeah.
I like New Addington, I can kind of understand, but I'm like, not that side of the borough. I'm talking like Croydon, like 40, huh? It's kind of...
Yeah. Some of them have to be black.
Of course they are. These are black areas.
Has to be black.
They're black areas. Like, who's voting for them? They're black.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's just my point, that we are becoming, and maybe we are becoming more politically fluid, and it's becoming a little bit more attractive to the community. And if that is the case, that's fantastic to see, because we do need, more of us in politics to drive change and to have that representation. When you look at Tooting, Sadiq Khan stepped down as the MP for Tooting to be Mayor of London, went straight in as another Asian candidate. And if you go across and look at Tooting High Street and a lot of these places, I look at some of these shops and I go, what the hell are they selling? How do they actually get a license and the lease? But when you've got councillors and people in your community,
Right.
that are located within local government or know somebody, when you push through that application,
But
you're right.
how much do you think like nepotism affects local politics? Because from the outside looking in, I've never engaged in anything politically. I think there's a section of people that have always felt like, okay, this is like a who's who club. It's not really based on merit. It's based on this family member or someone knows someone. How much of an effect do you think that has?
I think that the most important thing is connecting with people. Because even if you want to place someone in a certain area or something, you still need to be able to connect with everyone. And I think that's the most important thing. Many people want to talk. Few people listen, and even fewer people connect. That's the key. No matter where you are, can you get everyone to focus on you in a room? When you talk, can they believe it? Can you show that you have an effective strategy and that you can execute it and put resource in the right place? And do people actually trust your words? character's everything. Not when the cameras and the lights are on you like now, but when they're off. Are you still the same person? Did you remember that actually I'm going through a really difficult time because someone within your party's family members not very well? Did you send them a text and say, hope you're keeping well, and I know you won't be at a meeting at CDC? Connections, everything. So even if things like nepotism is happening, at some point they're going to be found out.
That's great. I think yeah.
But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens at the next general election, and how the black vote is like I said, we haven't seen a local election total, but I would very much love to see it based on what we're seeing nowadays, because I think politics is becoming more attractive. There's more people talking about it, and it's great to see, and especially us people that we need to, because we're wealth building. So it's definitely something for us to keep our eyes on. It's something to keep our eyes in.
And I think that the danger, and I always say this is a danger, is if we as a black community, I think it's very, very important that we become more politically aware. And I think, I'm not worried, but I guess my concern, or what I think about, is I'm not sure how much of us are really paying attention.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
I think that you don't have to be like super into politics. I'm not super into politics. I just engage and try to keep myself informed.
Yeah.
Because that will inform a lot of my decision making.
Yeah.
And there used to be this great advert on TV where it was like a cartoon advert, and the guy would say, I'm not into politics. And then they'd go into the pub and then he'd moan about the price. And the guy would say to him, but you say you're not into politics. But if you remember it, it was like a really popular advert. It was like, you can say you're not into politics, but you have to understand that politics is into you. Everything that happens is politically to some degree. So it's like, it's important that you educate yourself so that you can make better decisions. Because that's really what it is. It's like, really, you don't have to be into, but you don't even have to be a supporter of a particular party or person. But I think if you can educate yourself, you actually empower yourself to be able to make decisions. That's really at the baseline. That's kind of what I think.
And you know, one final bit I want to add on that actually is being able to articulate your way, like being able to challenge and to debate in a very democratic way, rather than being someone who's like just ranting and raving. I think it teaches you just to appreciate and value other people's opinions. Can you have a conversation with someone without raising your voice and have the maturity levels to understand that we may not share the same view, but that's okay, and that to respect that, but understand that we do kind of have one shared common goal here, and that's to make things better. And it's never personal. It's like businessmen, it's never personal for me. It might be personal for you, but what's personal for me is making sure that I can have that rice and peas and oxtail on a Sunday. That's what's personal for me. And I think it teaches you that, and just being able to navigate and be in different rooms. Yeah. Can you code switch? Really important. But still be you, still be your authentic self, but understand that being able to do that is a skill that you need to learn. And if you cannot do it, many doors are not going to open for you, especially in this AI world that we're living in now, where everything's being scanned. How are you going to get in front of the right person? You better be able to pick up their number in your phone book and say, hey, this has come up. Let's have a coffee. Let's have a lunch. And I think it teaches you that skill. You see what I mean?
Very true. Very true.